Hello. Today our group will be debating if an ASL teacher should be hearing or deaf. Our group's stance is that there should be opportunities for hearing teachers that studied and worked to be an ASL teacher, so they have the opportunity to work with deaf students. With the hearing teacher, it allows the students to be able to learn and sign, but also gives them the opportunity to possibly be bilingual by watching the facial motions of the teacher. All of our group members have provided a source that will support our stance on this topic. Hello, my name is Zachary Escobar, and I will be talking about a source that I found talking about how critical it is for young students being under the age of 10 to fully learn ASL. And I believe how a hearing teacher can do that as well as a deaf teacher, but can also help the students try and be bilingual. If a hearing teacher studied and worked just as hard as a deaf teacher, why shouldn't a hearing teacher be given the opportunity to teach deaf students? It just because they can hear and they can speak, how is that a problem for the deaf students? Now, the source I read felt pretty biased in this against what I just said, and it says that it made sure at this age only contact that the students only had contact with deaf teachers. It was thought that at this young of an age, it was critical to learn the language of ASL. And I fully understand the importance of this when they talked about it in the article, but on the other hand, if it was so important that they learned ASL at the preschool level, why would they not slowly introduce both ASL and English at the same time during this critical young age where they absorb all this information? The article starts off by saying most deaf children begin in a speaking household, where English is a main priority and not ASL. Now, that could be just because they are still adapting to their child being deaf, or like I said, it's a hearing household. They haven't had to deal with this, so it takes time to adapt. It's not like we can instantly all learn ASL. And I believe that during this time, it would be important for the child to learn both. At this young age, they are able to retain the information. Though it may be difficult, it is possible. In this article, Mayberry states that the child must know ASL before taking a second language. He says that if a child has learned ASL as of the age of 10, they won't have an understanding of either language. This quote by Mayberry says that feeling like they are forgetting that most children at this critical stage are still young. So, of course, it's difficult to learn these two languages, ASL and English, being very difficult if you're a deaf student to understand English. But at this such a young age, to where it's so critical, it could be very beneficial to have a hearing teacher to slowly teach them both signing and how to understand the English language, whether that be them understanding the mouth movements and other factors of being just literally signing. It was at this point that I believe that a hearing teacher would be able to help them down the road because of what Mayberry said. After the age of 10, where this critical period is no longer as easy, it is harder for uh, people, children, everyone to learn a second language. But in this crucial time, it is very important that we try to not make them be bilingual, but help them try to be bilingual so they can both understand ASL and English. And I feel like that would be a major priority for everyone, for them, including, though, yes, they are learning ASL and that should be a priority, but just taking away that opportunity to even start getting the chance to slowly start learning English, I feel would hurt the children in the long run. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophie Neighbors, and I read the article Educating Deaf Children in an Inclusive Setting in Kenya Challenges and Considerations. This article was written by Dr. Peter Adoyo Oracha. While reading this article, I highlighted 3 points that helped me build my argument for hearing teachers as it supports deaf children becoming bilingual. The first point is that there should be awareness campaigns and workshops geared towards attitude change by hearing teachers and the hearing society at large toward deafness and language. Hearing teachers who know ASL and hearing teachers who are children of deaf adults, as well as hearing teachers who are part of hearing culture, can bring together both deaf and hearing culture by leading effective awareness campaigns geared towards attitude change that can be directed towards the parents of deaf children, extended family members of deaf children, and in turn, hearing society at large. The second point is that upon entry into a special school, there are 2 groups of children: those from hearing parents who constitute 97.9% and have no structured language, whether signed or spoken, except a few gestures and acquired naturally. Because we know that 97.9% of parents of deaf children are hearing, including hearing teachers in deaf schools can allow hearing parents to communicate with their children's teachers as they learn ASL. This can foster an environment of inclusion. The third point is that there is a necessary arrangement for an interpreter and teachers of sign language should be made to visit the school on a regular basis. I argue that interpreters and teachers of sign language should be involved in the school on a daily basis to ensure effective communication between children, their teachers, and interpreters. Deaf adults, the quote continues, deaf adults should be employed in the school to support the deaf child and facilitate communication between children, teachers, and classmates. As we know from class, it's very important for deaf children to have deaf role models so that they can form their own identity. This is where deaf adults being employed in the school is helpful. Interpreters can also assist children and help bridge the gap between hearing and deaf culture. Thank you.
When hearing teachers are teaching deaf students, there are a few things to keep in mind to make sure that the classroom has proper accommodation for the deaf children so they can have that same quality of learning as the rest of the kids. The first one is having great acoustics. So that means that the teachers will soundproof the room, and that makes sure that echoes and distracting noises are almost completely diminished, if not altogether gone. The outside noises and everything that can create a distraction with the student's ability to learning, because if you're hearing stuff in the back of your ear and it's just a little faint, it makes it really distracting for learning. And also it helps the interpreter be able to sign more appropriately because they don't have any distractions either. So it's helpful for everyone. Also, with that being said, many teachers do use interpreters, so there's no language barrier because they want to be able to have their children have the same experience or about the same experience with learning, and they don't want any child to feel left behind. So the school will hire interpreters and have them go around in the class and follow the student and make sure that everything is secure and sound and that they understand everything. Sometimes the deaf students, they are not profoundly deaf or they don't require an interpreter, so they can just use an FM system. It can be sometimes a bulky box that the teacher wears or it's on the student, and it's provided with a microphone and the hearing aids. So with that, the teacher, whomever, can talk into the microphone and it's transmitted to the hearing aid, which allows better communication. And it creates more clear tone for the students so they can properly hear what's going on, which I find very fascinating. Also, with the assistive technology, computers are really nice. If they don't want to use any of that stuff, or if the parents don't feel comfortable, because some parents don't like to admit that their children are deaf, computers are really nice, along with other technologies like that, which allow them to physically type on a device, and it's better than writing down on a piece of paper, in my opinion, because one's thought process is going to be much faster than a handwriting technique. So I think that's really cool, and with all of this being said, with all the accommodations, it helps deaf students in the hearing world because they'll know what to expect and what they're going to be running into and problem solving with the help from the hearing teacher, because the hearing teacher wants the best for them, and it's a better way to communicate in a newer fashion, and it's just one of the endless possibilities that are for the deaf students in the hearing world.
My name is Diana Barlow. A study was done in Norway that discussed how deaf preschoolers could learn from hearing teachers in a bimodal bilingual setting. They found that involving hearing teachers in a deaf student's education would be worthwhile and a functional way to approaching the student's literacy. Teacher-assigned activities promote language and literacy learning for children by involving them in different size groups and different learning activities such as book reading, art, cooking, and games. Book reading and multi-party talk where other children or children and adults are talking at the same time is more challenging for the teacher to be able to involve the deaf students efficiently, but it is important to the deaf students' literacy development. These types of groups give the teacher a chance to introduce new concepts and expand the students' vocabulary. If deaf students are appropriately involved in literacy events and inclusive settings, they could definitely surpass literacy competency.
And this has been ours group's stance on why we believe that there are benefits to having hearing teachers teach deaf students sign language. Here are our sources. Thank you.